What's up, people of the world? How's it going today? It's Carpo, coming at you from the backyard. Just wanted to make a quick video about authority and the idea of uh, what authority really is and who has it and why do we follow it. I'm uh, I'm a very authority. I used to have there's the old like question authority and question reality. I used to wear these little pins that said stuff like that. But the question authority thing was always big to me. The idea of authority is like, as the word author, basically the author of a work or a book is the expert on that particular subject, let's say. And so the idea of an authority, it's not a police officer or somebody who is an authority figure as we tend to associate it, but rather the expert on any particular situation. So most of us are authorities on our own lives, but very little else. And like being a member of a society, it's a difficult thing. The more it's a philosophy, a lifelong philosophy of understanding why people think the way we do, and deciding whether you're going to accept or reject society as it is. Now, when I was younger, I was a complete rebel and basically, I didn't want to play by any of society's rules. And today I feel pretty much the same way, except for I've learned to adapt and adjust some of my thoughts about why things are the way they are. So I've learned to flow with the river, not to try to resist the current. No matter how right you might be about the way things could be, or having ideals about the future, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And there's a lot of people on Earth and a lot of different opinions. So what we have to do, I think, is work within the boundaries of the whole of society and humanity. Otherwise, we end up isolating ourselves and becoming exclusive to our authority on that one subject. And this is how religions become authorities on God, and how politicians become authorities on what's right and what's wrong. And the parents always have the idea that they're authorities on everything, and their kids don't know any better, which we know isn't true. A lot of the times parents are wrong too. Bosses are wrong. Politicians are wrong. Religious leaders are wrong. But right within the context of how it operates for them, what they believe. But anyhow, I tend to be the person who resists authority, especially when I feel like it's unfairly pushed upon us. Like, for example, like last night we drove down to Eugene. It's about a 2-hour drive. We drove down there for a Papadosio concert. I mentioned I love Papadosio. And we were in there and I was taking pictures, and just a few pictures with the camera I'm using here, which it's not a professional camera. It's a nice camera. It's decent, but I mean I can get just as good of pictures with my Samsung phone. So anyhow, I was taking a few pictures, and then this security girl comes over, and she says, "You can't have that. You can't have professional cameras in here." And I'm like, "Well, this isn't a professional camera. What do you mean?" And she's like, "You can't have it. The band doesn't allow it." And so anyhow, I was like, okay, that was one of those authority moments where I'm like, well, I'm in their place. I can completely respect that. For me, it's just spreading. I would never sell the pictures, and I understand that intellectual property and that kind of stuff. People have to protect their assets, but it's hard to know what people's intentions are. So anyhow, I went on with I also had my little voice recorder that I used, and I just wanted to catch a few tunes, so I had it sitting there on my wife's sweater. We were at the very front, hanging on the gate in front of the stage, so we're basically on the stage. So I had the little recorder sitting on the coat, and that same security girl, she comes around, pushes between my wife and I, or sneaks between my wife and I, and actually grabs my recorder. And I turned around and I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "You can come see me after the show if you want this back." And I was like, "Well, it's just a recorder." I was like, "You didn't say anything about that." And so anyhow, in the end, when I went out in the lobby, I gave her a piece of my mind. I tried to be as civil as possible. I felt bad for the other guy that was working there, that was like, he's like, "I don't want you to leave with a bad taste in your mouth," and he's trying to calmly explain his, basically in the end I realized I'm wrong. It is their right to do so, because they don't know me, and that's where authority gets confused with intention, if you know what I mean. To finalize the story, this morning I went and emailed their manager, Papadosio. I said, "Look, I want to take some pictures. What are your because that's usually the band request to not allow photography. So I got permission from the band manager. He says as long as I get permission ahead of time, he'll give me a photography pass, and then I won't have any problems. I was like, that's great. I mean, that's a solved. That's a problem. That's a solution to the problem, to where she was within her right to. Basically, the thing that I told her was, first of all, I said, the issue isn't that you told me to stop recording. The issue is that you actually grabbed my property and took it. You could have asked me to turn it off, or you could have asked me to leave. So, when authority of any type gets into your shit, that's when you get, when a lot of us become very territorial, and it's hard to break that. You have this feeling of I've been wronged, and sure, people say let it go, and you do, but at the moment it happens, you're a little shook up. It's very similar to when a police officer or a shitty cop, one or the other, because I've met both. If they interact with you on a civil, face to face, hey, I'm a human, you're a human. Okay, sorry, officer. I've always been respectful to cops, and I've managed to get myself out of plenty of problems. I mean, flipped a U-turn in the middle of this, road. I'm in the school bus. I flipped a U-turn because I missed like a parking spot for a Dead show last summer, and of course get pulled over right away. And just talk to the cop like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I apologize. I realized my error. I was just in a hurry. And usually the cops aren't dicks about it. The thing is, I've seen so many people that are assholes to cops. Of course, the cops are going to be assholes back because their authority. They believe that it's bad enough. Imagine being pushed around by a cop or told what to do by a cop makes people defensive. Well, imagine a cop being pushed around by a citizen and how defensive they would get, because of the context of their job and what they do. But that's just one type of authority. These are just people who are who have a job to protect or to stop people from doing certain things, and that's what security and police do. But let's just say when we get down to something more like who is the authority on the truth, and this is when it gets much more the line's much more blurred there, and this is what's driving, I think, a lot of the confusion on YouTube about not just YouTube, but it is a main platform for sharing all kinds of crazy videos about different stuff, and for people to be able to dissect it and know who is the authority on this. You have one guy who makes a video and he says, I'm the authority on the Illuminati, or I'm the authority on UFOs, whatever it may be. And you say, well, since we're all have access to the same information, what makes this person an authority over this person? And they'll say research. So it comes down to research, but unless you're sitting there logging hours, and you can research all you want. It depends on what you're researching, how well you assimilate it, whether or not your memory is functional enough to pick up on the things you're learning, and what you're willing to allow into your psyche. So we start to believe that people are authority just because they hold a certain position. And this is when it gets dangerous. With politics, we refer to authority. Through history, it's always been divine rule. And for a lot of people aren't aware of, how leaders were considered representatives of God through history in many religious cultures. So basically, a king who was born into his role is considered to be the son of somebody else who was divine authority. Bloodlines, royal bloodlines. Basically, we're saying we are godly and, others aren't. And that really causes a major problem with authority. There were some, probably much more suitable people through history who could have been leaders, but since they weren't within the group, the authority group, they couldn't actually, they were the authority on politics, but you couldn't take the position because of corruption, which causes a lot of conflict. So I guess in a nutshell, what it comes down to is that we need to question every single person who claims to be the authority on subjects. We don't have to shut everything down, though. The other side of this is that we don't have to say, hey, screw you, I know more than you, and you don't know anything, and do more research. There's coincidentally enough, there's a song on the new Papadosio album, which is, I think is Earth. The Earth is a square, or Earth is a cube. think it is, and the whole, it's just a joke. It's like the Earth is a cube, 6 sides are better than one. Um, uh, I know it's true because I saw it on YouTube. It's a very short song, but it's basically about somebody arguing with a flat earther. That's what I took away from it. But more than that, it's just a metaphor for the larger encompassing problem we have with assessing the value of a person's ethos, whether or not their personality and whether or not they know the subject well enough to really make an accurate assessment. We know scientists get, corrupted and biased within their own beliefs, and that religious do the same thing, and that every one of us is biased in one way or another. So it's, if we really want to know something, whatever it might be, and whatever subject it might be, first we have to take off our blinders and stop thinking that we know best, and then be willing to listen to those who are an authority on the subject, and realize that some people are can be very useful to help us learn things, that we don't have to be like, I don't know anything, or you don't know anything, I know everything. But also realize it's an exchange of information, because that's what we're all after, is to help better our lives, not for the sake of knowledge's sake. And this is a completely different subject altogether, which is that some people want to be the authority on something not to understand it, but to be better than someone else. And so everybody's got to have their thing, I guess. Some people never had any power in their life, so they take a powerful position to, try to make up for it. I don't know. There's a lot of psychology that goes into being a human, and because it's all psychology. We're these walking minds, and consistently assessing things around us. But one last note on authority is that whenever I get confused or pulled aside by the fact that someone's either nicely dressed, or they present themselves well, or have a good speaking voice, or they're very educated on a subject, what I remember is that if there's a room full of people talking, every one of those people wakes up disheveled, groggy, rubs their eyes, scratches their butt, and gets out of bed naked. It's the same thing. We're all naked humans in the morning. We all start out the same. We're all born the same. And so don't be enamored by people's their witty, their ability to put words together and convince you that things might be true, nor to be taken back by the clothing someone wears. But it's very hard for us to separate that, the way a person looks, from their actual authority, if you will. You see a uniform and you go, oh shit, it's, if you're one of the like me who's like, oh shit, what did I do wrong? It's just something we carried from our youth. Fuck you, authority. So anyway, that's my authority ramble for the day, and yeah, I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a good one.